Hey everybody out there, this is Seto, and today for you guys we're going to be talking about, is Yu-Gi-Oh getting too confusing? And this is something that I've always thought about in the back of my mind and whatnot, but when you're trying to teach somebody how to play Yu-Gi-Oh from scratch, and they don't know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh, it is very hard to, I find sometimes. And the reason I even bring this up is because recently, guys, I've been trying to teach. They actually wanted to learn, and I've been teaching them, and they've been doing fairly well. Both of my 11-year-old nephews. One's about to turn 11, the other one's already 11 years old. But I've been trying to teach them Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, both of them have played Pokemon before, the card game, and they haven't just collected Pokemon, they actually play Pokemon, the card game, online and in real life. So they have a basic concept of card game interactions and card games. But it's very hard for them when I first, was explaining to them all the different mechanics and all the different chain links and all this. They were kind of like, huh? What? That's very confusing. And for somebody who has grown up playing Yu-Gi-Oh for since 2002, so like 15 years or so, I am used to it. I had to grow up through the beginnings. I had to deal with contact fusions and all that stuff in the GX era. I understand what synchros are because I played through that era. I played with exceeds. I know what exceeds do and how you can make them. And I also understand how, pendulums work. And when the new mechanic comes out, as of right now, the mechanic hasn't been announced yet, but, I'll probably eventually learn how to do that. But trying to teach a kid, all the fusion mechanics, all this, all the different types of synchro plays you can do, Exceed summoning and synchros are the most easier in fusion because you're combining two monsters to make one. Pendulum summoning, it's a little bit harder to explain, especially the niche things about the different things you can summon and the restrictions. But it's not that hard, and probably the new mechanic would be basic to some degree. The thing I'm getting at really is, yes, teaching all those mechanics is complicated, but also teaching somebody the basic fundamentals of the game. What's a good card? What's a bad card? And the card pool is so vast nowadays. It's not as simple as picking up a structure deck and just learning necessarily, or a starter deck and learning, which I've been playing a starter deck with them recently. It's just the fact that trying to teach them chain links, basic interactions, how to read a card properly, all the little words in a card that make up something. Why those cards are important because of those word changes and whatnot. What makes a card very good, what makes a card bad. What's a counter trap, what's a continuous spell, what's a field spell. Why you can, all these different things, and trying to explain to them how to do combo plays and just basic fundamental plays, for a deck or an archetype to function is a little bit confusing compared to something, back in the day when I picked up my first starter deck, playing the original Seto Kaiba structure deck, and it was just pretty much, I summon Blue Eyes White Dragon, I don't even make a tribute summon, I attack. But then eventually you learn, oh, I have to make a tribute summon. Oh, my monster is bigger than your monster, that's all that matters. And you had basic, simple effects. Flip this monster up, pop a card. Where nowadays, you have all these convoluted combo plays you have to do to get to your main objective compared to, 15 years ago. Yes, the game has changed a lot and it's got more complex, but when you compound it layer on top of layer on top of layer of new things and new rulings and things of that nature, it's very, very hard to explain to somebody. It's hard for them to digest all that things, and they've done fairly well at it, I have to admit, for teaching them. And this is my first time really having teaching experience, teaching somebody. I taught one of my exes one time to play Yu-Gi-Oh, but she wasn't interested really in playing it. She said she wasn't, but these two guys are interested in it. They're interested in playing Yu-Gi-Oh. They want to play Yu-Gi-Oh. I gave them a rule book so they could read stuff and learn. I've been quizzing them on things, what is this, what is this card? How do you know it's a continuous spell? What's the basic combo you can play? playing with an opening hand so you can teach them how to play their deck properly. And, you know, not babying them, you know, saying like, oh, what would you do? You know, this is what I would do. This, you know, what would you do? Asking that question. That's a topic for a different video, discussing about, you know, how to teach someone how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Now that I have more experience on it, and they've learned fairly well how to learn, I'm probably going to do a video on that in the future. But pretty much what I've learned from the get-go is Yu-Gi-Oh! Is more complicated than we are led to believe on. If you've played this game through a mechanic era, you know, you've played this game for, you know, maybe 2-3 years, yeah, you understand how it works. But trying to teach somebody who's never, you know, trying to teach a young, you know, teen or a kid, you know, which they are, they're 11 years old, how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Is very, very hard to understand. You know, what does it say? What do we always joke about on the back of every pack? It says, this, you know, game is made for kids, pretty much. It's always said that. And that's the joke we always get. Oh, this is a children's card game. That's the joke we all Yu-Gi-Oh! Players make. I'm playing a children's card game. Well, it's very hard for a child to understand how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Fundamentally, I found. It's, you know, if you're a teenager or an adult, you know, and you've had experience playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Yes, it's more easier to learn, probably. Especially if you have experience playing other card games. Gosh forbid they didn't learn. You know, if they had no experience playing Pokemon, it would be very hard because they understand basic things, and you know, they've learned fairly well in the last 4 weeks, well, a month and a half. I've taught them how to play. You know, 2 days a week we usually play Yu-Gi-Oh! And whatnot. They're really interested. You know, we started watching. Believe it or not, we started watching. You know, we watched the Yu-Gi-Oh! Movie. Bonds Beyond Time, and then we started watching Zexal because that was on I forget, they had it on their TV, they could get it, and I was like, oh, let's watch, you know, this cool episode from Zexal. Next thing I know, we're watching every single Zexal episode, and I'm just like, I remember why I hate Zexal, but if the kids are enjoying it and they want to play because of it, I'm up for that. But just like back on track there, guys, it's very complicated. I mean, I think we take it for granted because if you're watching this video, you've probably played this game and you understand the game to some capacity, and you understand what combo plays are. You understand what a chain link is. You understand, you know how cards interact, how to make a deck. You know, interact with the other things. We take it for granted, I feel like, and trying to teach a younger generation how to play the game, because now it's been compounded through the years on top of things and card rulings and interactions. It's a lot more complicated. It sounds easy, it really does, but it's very complicated than compared to when I played. Just beat down stuff, and then I learned because the game progressed. So I would love to hear you guys' feedback on your learning experiences trying to teach somebody else Yu-Gi-Oh! Did you have a hard time just like I have? You know, trying to teach somebody, especially if they've never played the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Before. I would love to hear your stories of, I tried to teach my girlfriend, I tried to teach my friend, my brother, and he just didn't know how to play at all, and, things of that nature, or any tips you have would be welcome as well. I would love to hear any tips if you try to teach your kid, or if you have a kid that is, or your younger brother or sister how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! What were some tips you had? Like I said, I gave him a starter deck. And we're also playing some of my Seto Kaiba and Yugi starter deck ones, so they learn the basic mechanics. And I'm going to work my way up to giving them a structure deck, because a structure deck is the next thing up from a starter deck. And then from there we'll see where it goes, because I want them to learn everything. I don't want them to get overwhelmed and just get, because I've seen it happen, and I've heard stories countless times from other players that have tried to teach other players, other people to play Yu-Gi-Oh! They get stressed out. They feel like it's too hard to digest. It's too much to digest. They just don't understand it. That's the main thing I have, and that's one of the things that I hope, that Konami doesn't make this game so convoluted at one point in time in the future, where just nobody can really pick it up and the game would die off because nobody's picking up the game again. There's no new blood coming into the game. It's one of my greatest fears, and it would feel awful if Yu-Gi-Oh! Died because it got too damn complex and new blood couldn't come in because they didn't understand it. But it's never been the case. The game's been going strong for years now, so I hope that the more years that pass on, the less fears I have that will ever happen. But it's still something that resonates in the back of my mind. But tell me your thoughts, guys. Tell me some of the stories you've had, teaching people how to play the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And do you feel like also that this game is very complex to some degree, especially for somebody that's never played Yu-Gi-Oh! Before? But till next time, guys, take care, have fun dueling, good luck dueling, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, everybody.